Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. I'm recording this on Friday, mine and Kris's 27th wedding anniversary. It's a big deal to me because there was a time when I didn't think we would ever make it this far. If you've listened to the earlier podcast episodes, you probably know that our marriage story is one filled with heartbreak, addiction, adultery, and finding ourselves sitting in the ruins. But more than that, it's a story of a God who still works miracles, a marriage that has been rebuilt on a solid foundation, and a love that keeps going despite everything the world throws at us. Of course, I'm biased, but I love our marriage story. And one of my favorite stories to tell is the night we got engaged. But before we get to that, I want to talk about a couple of other things. Kris and I love Brandon Sanderson. He's a phenomenal writer, weaving real life, mental health, and humor into his books, while giving you these elaborate magic systems that fit seamlessly into his stories, which are rich and wild and leave you wanting more. So when I put this out to the world, asking for questions we could talk about on the podcast, my friend Sarah wanted us to talk about the Cosmere. This is how Google explains the Cosmere. The Cosmere is author Brandon Sanderson's shared fictional universe, primarily set within a single dwarf galaxy. While each of his epic fantasy series take place on a different planet with unique magic, cultures, and settings, they are all connected by a singular overarching creation myth and underlying magical physics. It's a bit like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Everything is connected while it can also stand independently. All right, enough of the nerd stuff. Let's jump in. So, Kris, Sarah wants to know which Cosmere character you most identify with.
So I think I most identify with Dalinar. The two things that kind of come to mind, Dalinar likes to be in control of everything, especially early on.
Yes.
And that's been a struggle for me that God's had to really help break me of.
I can confirm.
So this need and desire to be in tight control, really driven out of fear oftentimes, because I don't like myself when I'm out of control. Mm-hmm. And you see that in Dalinar as he wrestles with often trying to ignore his flaws of his past, trying to pretend they don't exist.
Yeah.
Even to the point of getting some magic person to wipe his memory, right?
Right.
He'll go to extremes to try to be the person he wants to be, right?
Yeah.
And like I said, God had to bring me to a place where I could acknowledge the person I am and trust Him to help build me into the person I desire to be, and own my flaws and move forward in spite of them.
I love that. And I agree with that. I think I definitely see a lot of Dalinar in you. His leadership, his strength, his willingness to just keep fighting even if people are telling him to stop. I think for me, I would have to say Kaladin. This guy's a mess. He is depressed. He's anxious. He's constantly fighting all these inner demons. He's insecure. He doesn't think he's good enough. But there's something about him. He has this perseverance and this resilience in him. And every single time he comes to the lowest point in the book, and he comes to so many low points as I have throughout our marriage, something happens. There's always a person or a light or a memory. There's something that happens that gives Kaladin exactly what he needs to just keep pushing forward, to take one more step, to not give up, to not throw himself off a cliff. And I think that you've seen me wrestle in this same way throughout our marriage. And I just really relate to how he struggles with his mental health and how he also just keeps going in spite of it.
Mm-hmm. That brings me to one of my favorite quotes. What's the most important step a man can take?
The next one.
That's right.
The next one. Yeah, I love that. And one of the things that I like as we look at you as Dalinar and me as Kaladin, I think that we have to kind of look at how the two interacted in the books. And for anyone who's curious, we're specifically talking about a series called Stormlight Archives. I highly recommend it. It starts with The Way of Kings. It's the first book. But Dalinar and Kaladin, they live separate lives in the beginning. Their paths don't what's the word?
Cross.
Cross. Yeah, that's a good word. Menopause brain for the win. Their paths don't really cross until later in the book, and they're both established characters when they come in contact with one another. But as the story builds and the books go on, you see this. It's like a connection between them. They're almost working as a team towards a common goal, and you can't have one without the other. Kaladin needs Dalinar's strength, and Dalinar needs Kaladin's empathy. And I feel like they make such a beautiful team, and I think that's why I relate to Kaladin and you're Dalinar, and I look at us as a relationship and the team that we are, and how God has brought us together and given us a story and allowed us to go through hard things. But in the end, he's building something beautiful between us, and I think you see that between Dalinar and Kaladin in the books as well.
I agree.
All right, so let's move away from the Cosmere. I thought it would be fun to tell our listeners a few things that we love about each other. This time, I'll go first since I made you go first last time. And I think I told you to pick 3 things, and I don't know if I'm going to pick 3 things. I'm just going to go with what comes to my mind right now. One of the things I love the most is how you see me. You know, I've struggled our whole marriage to be seen and to feel wanted and just known. And as the years have gone by and God has restored our marriage, I see you try so hard to just really see me and understand what's going on in my mind at any given time. Some of my favorite memories with you are where we've been in the middle of conflict and you have realized that I am beyond upset and it's become too much, and you'll pause and you'll say, okay, hold on a minute, let's back up. What's going on? What are you feeling? And that has been so huge for me to have not just my therapist, but you, my husband, be able to realize I'm in a dysregulated state and take control of the situation and pause and give me room to breathe and to come out of the conflict so that we can figure out what's causing the disruption. And every single time that's happened, the conflict has really just kind of gone away. It's just kind of unraveled because what's creating the conflict has had nothing to do with the actual topic. You know, we went to a marriage retreat years ago and we joke about it all the time, but they would say constantly, the issue is not the issue. And, you know, we joke about that a lot, but we come back to that time and time again because normally whatever the conflict is, whatever's causing it is not actually, it doesn't have anything to do with it. Usually it's a wound from long ago, you know, one of us have had that we're fighting against. And so being able to have someone who sees me and knows me in those moments be able to bring sanity back has been huge. I also love that I have a lot of questions about the Bible and theology, and anytime I have a question, I can come to you and I can just say, hey, I don't understand this. And instead of making me feel stupid, it's like it's almost exciting for you because you get to dive in and study something and have that kind of dialogue. And it helps me understand myself. It helps me understand the Bible. It helps me understand faith a little bit better. So I love that I can bounce things off of you. And I guess I'll pick another one. The last one I'll pick is just our friendship, the ease with which we can have conversation. We can sit in a room together without having conversation and feel at peace. We've talked about this a lot over the 27 years. We started our relationship as just super good friends, and that continued even in the hard years, even during all of the struggle. We remained friends. And sometimes I think that had we not had such an intimate friendship, I'm not sure we would have been able to participate in the rebuilding. And so I'm grateful to have that. So what about you? Make me feel good.
So the three things that just popped into my mind immediately when I started thinking about that question was your passion, your compassion, and your love for the Lord. But then I realized love for the Lord is not really fair because everything else is built on it. In other words, you wouldn't have the passion you had if I don't think if it wasn't for that relationship driving it. You wouldn't have the compassion that you have if it wasn't for that relationship driving it. So another one then would be your honesty and vulnerability. So
For good or for bad.
For good. No, I love it.
No, but you get the bad too.
Well,
you get all of it.
So, just kind of talking through those just a little bit more, like you just get so passionate about most things.
So many things, little or big.
So whether it be Pampered Chef, whether it be Substack, whether it be, ministry, like you said, little or big, and that's absolutely true. It could be, hey, you're something that you're going to cook or something that you're going to,
Something stupid the dog did.
Yep. So, you just get super passionate, and but it's just a joy to see, and it's a joy to participate in life with you, and just have someone by my side who has that kind of passion and drive. And then your compassion, you mentioned Kaladin earlier, and empathy, and that is definitely a place where God has just really gifted you, and being able to be able to kind of enter into other people's pain and other people's story in a way that I can't always do. I'm sometimes a little more detached.
You get in your head a lot.
I get in my head, sometimes even detached from my own emotions.
Yes,
right?
Sometimes, yeah, for sure.
So
you think?
So again, God partners us up for a reason, to have a life partner that's able to have that level of empathy and that level of compassion. It's just been really again a joy to experience. And then the vulnerability and honesty, we joke about it a lot. The joke, for those who don't know it, is that when Jamie and I were first married, I couldn't get her to talk. And then when she started talking, I couldn't get her to quit.
That's a nice way of saying he couldn't get me to shut up.
But again, we joke about it a lot, but I've said it before, and I maintain it. It's true. I love that I don't have to guess. I love that I know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
You don't always get that privilege with me, because I do get in my head, and I want to think everything through and wrestle with what I really believe and what's true and everything else before I let anything out.
And I just blurt it all out, and then I think later. I'm getting better.
And we've talked about it because it's a balance. God is trying to make me a little bit more like you, and trying to make you a little bit more like me, right?
Yeah, I have to take up less space in the relationship, and you need to learn to take up some space in even a little bit of space in the relationship.
So, but I do appreciate that I don't have to guess. I do appreciate that you're real. And then it goes beyond that. Both of us have been shown by God that just to be real and authentic with our own stories, our failures, everything else, it's just the only way to live in the light. And we've seen God work so powerfully as we share the mess that we've made, and then what God's done in spite of it. It gives people hope, you know, and so... again, having a partner by my side who has that level of vulnerability, who's willing to share, who's willing to own their mistakes and be real with it and let the world know, hey, I didn't do it right, but I have got a God who loved me anyway and saw me through it. Yeah. It's huge.
Thank you. All right. So let's tell our engagement story. This is one of my favorite stories to tell. I love stories. I love telling stories, and stories where I'm not shown in the best light, oddly, are some of my favorite stories to tell, because I find a lot of humor in how disrupted I can get over minor things and misunderstandings. So we got engaged in 98,
I think that's right.
1998, because we got married in 99. So I think we got married in the fall of 98. And I was in a singing group in college, and we had met, or we were singing at a church out in Indiana near my parents' house. And you had come to my parents' house that weekend. Everyone was going to come to the church and listen to the performance. So it just made sense that you were going to be there, they were going to be there. And I knew that weekend that you had asked my dad if you could marry me. So it was only a matter of time. Like, I'm not stupid. We talked about marriage, we looked at rings. You were going to propose. And so I knew it was coming soon. So that, like, a week later, or like that next weekend, you said that you wanted to go out on a date. And I was already suspicious. I was like, "Oh, I think he's going to do it." Cuz like why would you ask my dad and then ask me to go on a date when normally we were just like, "Hey, you want to hang out? Let's go to my mom's." We, like, we'd gone on dates, but you weren't always like issuing a formal, "Hey, I would love to take you out on a date." So
And I think I asked you to get dressed up.
you
too.
did. I asked you how I should dress, which was a little bit of me trying to get get some, like, kind of feel you out and see, is he gonna propose? And you weren't like giving a lot, but you're like, yeah, you can dress nice, like you can wear a nice dress. And so I actually borrowed an outfit from one of my friends at college, and because I didn't wear dresses. And so I was like, great, now I got to dress up. So I've got a dress on, I've got nice shoes on, likely not heels because I hate heels. You pick me up, where we go to college together. So you pick me up outside the dorm, and I will kick it back to you and let you tell the next part.
Yeah, so I had planned everything out. Our very first date involved going to a restaurant that I had really liked. Unfortunately, they've closed since then, but it was called Balducci's, and you had liked it too. And it was kind of it was a nice little smaller
Hole in the wall
kind
place,
of bar,
nice.
but a little bit intimate and nice. Yeah, they had Fitz's root beer, which we both enjoyed, and I think we got the pizza. I don't remember, but regardless, we went there, and we so that was our first date. So I thought, oh, on the night I'm going to propose, let's go back there, right? Mm-hmm. And so we went back to Balducci's, and we enjoyed a really nice dinner. But I had more planned.
He didn't propose at the dinner.
Yeah, I didn't propose at the dinner. I thought, man, we live in St. Louis. We've got the Arch and the riverfront. It would be really beautiful to take a walk by the riverfront over by the Arch. They have a little trail, not a big trail, but like a paved path that walks around the Arch and little greenery area there. So we drove downtown and got out and took a little walk by the Arch because I thought that'd be super romantic.
And I'm going to interrupt here because I'm just now remembering I was carrying my shoes because my feet hurt.
Oh yeah.
I've never been a fan of walking, but it was romantic. You're like, oh, the Arch and the riverfront. This is so romantic. And I remember carrying my shoes. And do you remember seeing the Riverboat Casino across
the one over in
across the border?
Yeah.
And all, like, we were, and I was, it kind of took away from the scenery, but it was so like, of course, that's what we're seeing when we're trying to go on this nice romantic walk.
Yeah.
But I remember my feet hurting, and I remember the scenery was really beautiful until you turn around and you see the lights. And it's not even like this magnificent casino either. It's just this like rundown riverboat with some lights on it.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. And so my next romantic idea was we should do a horse carriage ride.
Which I had never done one.
Yeah.
Had you?
I don't think so. I think that was probably my first one. And so I knew that they had horse-drawn carriages that you could like rent out. There's like this whole section downtown St. Louis where it's still like the original
cobblestone,
like bricks, and back from way back when. And so they had horse carriage rides that would go along those streets. I thought that'd be really cool and really romantic.
And it was.
So I rented a carriage and we got in it, and Unfortunately, the horse lost its shoe at one point, and
He says unfortunately because I was sitting on the side of the carriage where the door was, and for some reason this carriage driver thought, oh, instead of me getting down and getting the horseshoe that the horse had lost, he thought, oh, can one of you get down? So here I am having to figure out how to get down from this horse and carriage to pick up the horseshoe that's fallen off and hand it because Kris is sitting on the inside. Yeah. Anyway.
So
I was annoyed at this point.
So it wasn't as nice of a horse carriage ride as I had imagined in my head, but it was still another romantic thing that I did.
They look better on TV, and we have never done another one since, and we probably never will.
That's all true. And so yeah. Then we proceeded to my next destination.
And I will say he didn't propose at any of these. Not at the restaurant, not at the romantic stroll down by the arch, not on the horse-drawn carriage ride before or after the nightmare with the horseshoe. So we get in the car, and he hasn't told me anything. He's not like said, we're doing this, we're doing that. He just starts driving. And I am horrible with directions. I don't know north, south, east, west. I hadn't been in St. Louis, but 6 months, maybe.
Longer than that. I think it's
longer, but I didn't have a car out there at the time.
That's
and
true.
So I didn't do a lot of driving, and I didn't really know the area. Yeah. We have 70, 170, and 270. And in my mind at the time, they were all just the same highway. Yeah. I knew they're not even highways. They're interstates, right? Like,
yeah.
I'm from a small town, so we didn't have interstates where I grew up. I mean, it's not in my small town. And so we're driving, and because I don't know where we're going, I'm just sitting there thinking through the evening. You're quiet, you're not saying anything, and I'm over here fuming because the more I think about the evening, the more mad I get. Because I'm like, what is he doing? Is he just messing with me? We're going to get through this entire night, and he's not going to have proposed. And at the time, I can't see the irrationality of my response. I'm so disrupted, I can't even enjoy the time with you. Because by this point, I'm just mad. He's not going to propose. We're going back to the college. We're on Interstate 70. Here we go. And then we approach Interstate 170. And I'm expecting him to go right. And he goes left. And I'm like, okay, well, wait a minute. We're not going back to the college. And then I think, oh, we must be going to his mom's house because she lived over in Overland, that direction. And I'm like, okay, I guess we're going to play video games. And so I was still pretty mad. And I was like a little let down, but I was like, well, at least the night's not ending yet. And at this point, I have finally convinced myself he is not proposing. He did all this for whatever reason. He thought it was going to be sweet and take me on a date, but he's not proposing. And I've got to figure out how to quit being so mad and appreciate what he's done. But I just can't. I'm so disrupted and I'm so annoyed and I am just fuming. And like literally, I'm pretty sure from the time we left downtown to the time we got to your mom's, there were no words said between us. There might have been, but I don't remember. Yeah. I just remember being furious.
We talked. I do believe I knew that you were not happy, though.
Well, you could tell. You always know. You could tell.
And I don't think I was completely certain why you weren't happy, but I knew that you weren't. But I did have one more thing planned. I had bought...
It wasn't video games at your mom's?
It was not video games
Which
at my mom's.
Which we did do sometimes, so that's not that like...
That wasn't far-fetched, but that wasn't the plan.
Okay.
I had bought a dozen roses for Jamie, and the final destination I had planned was back to my mom's house, where the dozen roses were waiting on the table. I had also put together... I used to like to Photoshop things together, so I had a little piece of paper with some pictures of Jamie and I, and a poem that I really, I always really liked E.E. Cummings, and he had a poem, I love you much, my most beautiful darling. And so I had printed out that poem and put a couple pictures on it and had that sitting in front of the roses, so that when we got to Mom's house and walked in, it would be one of the first things that Jamie saw. And then I'll kick it back over to you.
The roses were the first thing I noticed because your mom never had flowers on the table. And I was at your mom's a lot. Like, we went over there all the time to hang out, to watch TV, to play video games. What was it, Blade Runner we used to play?
We played Blade
on the
Runner.
computer
Yep.
all the time. So we walk in and I see the flowers, and my first thought is, that's odd. Someone got Cindy flowers. And I walked to the table because I'm like, well, of course I'm going to smell the roses. It's what you're supposed to do. And I wanted to look at it. I see the roses, and then I see the paper in front of it. And I was like, oh my gosh, these roses are for me. And so I'm reading through the poem. And at the end, you had like, you'd written something about spending the rest of our lives together and signed your name. And I realized in that moment, oh, he wasn't just being a jerk, but I still, at this point, I was so convinced that you were not going to propose to me that I was utterly shocked. I turned around and you were on one knee holding a ring. And I was just like, in a moment, all of the anger and frustration melted away. And I was just so excited and ready to say yes to you. And it's still to this day one of my favorite stories to tell, because even back then, we were us. We were who we are today. I was easily disrupted. I made assumptions. I had expectations that without talking to you about it, and you were silent. And you were just in your head, probably nervous about proposing, probably thinking, what's going on in her head? Why is she quiet? All this stuff. And it's so us. It's just us. It wouldn't be an engagement story if I hadn't been completely disrupted the majority of the time. And then in the end, yeah, you proposed. Obviously, I said yes.
Yeah.
But I love telling that story. So thank you for taking the time today to record this with me, for always going along with my whims, whether it be selling Pampered Chef or any other number of MLM businesses, or learning to make flower arrangements or jewelry or t-shirts, whatever. Essential oils, yeah, you name it, whatever.
Scentsy, the candles.
Scentsy, okay, all right. Don't tell everyone all the dirt on all the things I've sold over the past 20 some years. But anyway, thank you for doing that. I think it's been a fun way to spend some time together on our anniversary. I couldn't have asked for a better way to celebrate 27 years with you than getting free donuts this morning, winning at the casino, relaxing in the pool, and sitting with you now talking about where we started and where we are now. God has been so good to us. Thank you guys for tuning in to this special anniversary episode. Your support, your questions, and your encouragement means so much. I love you guys, and I'll chat with you in the next episode.